Howdy, y'all. Caleb here. Let's talk about the Las Vegas Open that happened this past weekend. A giant tournament in Las Vegas for Age of Sigmar. In fact, I think it's the biggest in the world at this point. It may have passed the tournament in Australia this year for having the most players. So we're going to look at a couple of lists for Seraphon and what did well, and maybe some of the trends that we're seeing from this big tournament. The Las Vegas Open, it did have 325 total Age of Sigmar players listed in the BCP app. And as I'm scrolling through those, I'm looking for all the Seraphon lists. So hopefully I didn't miss any. I was following some of this over the weekend, watching some of the games when I could hop in and out of social media and Twitch and whatnot. Seeing what I could. It looked like a ton of fun. Wish I could have been there, but we're gonna review some of the lists here. So we had 13 total Seraphon lists that I could find, and that represents about 4% of the meta. And the record for you guys was 33 wins and 32 losses. So I think that is just about as balanced as you can get it. Our subfactions, we had 9 Thunderlizard subfactions, 2 Koatl's Claw, 1 Draco's Tail, and 1 Fangs of Sotek. So obviously dominated by Thunderlizard in popularity. It is the most fun subfaction we've got. Let's bring all the monsters. That's why we're in Seraphon, right? Koatl's Claw had a really good showing, and you'll see it's from a regular on our list reviews. Our common units, all 13 lists had either Slann or Kroak. That's, it continues to be an automatic take in our army. It's one of the things that makes our army unique is our Slann and our Kroak. Those board-wide unbinds, strong magic. Now, I think we're getting beat in the magic phase now by some of the newer books, so it will be interesting to see what our book, when it comes out early summer, looks like as far as magic casting and whatnot, but still a very, very good support piece in our army. 8 of the lists had an Engine of the Gods. So basically, I think it may have been every Thunderlizard except one had Engine of the Gods in it, I believe. 9 lists had Bastiladons, with 17 total Bastiladons taken throughout the 13 lists. So a very popular unit there with Bastiladons. For obvious reasons, it's got great shooting. It's got a great armor save. A lot of utility. It's not, the damage isn't off the charts, but it has reach, and it has good play, and some good synergies. So, one thing of note in the Las Vegas Open, they're using the new points from the battle scroll, but they're still using the old GHB. So we have things like Bounty Hunters, Expert Conquerors. We had some of the old battle tactics showing up in this tournament. And so take that in mind when you're looking at these lists. The lists are still valid today as long as you switch out the battalion. So if you're looking for some ideas, some of these top lists we're going to look at can still give you some good ideas. They may not function exactly the same as they had here because Bounty Hunters is a big loss. So keep that in mind as we look at these lists. Here's our tiers for our games. We had three armies go 4-1. We had 4 go 3-2, and then 3 armies both go 2-3 and 1-4. So, you can see that Seraphon, we've had plenty of point increases since a few years ago when our book first released. And maybe they've gotten it to a place where it's balanced around that mid field. This is just one tournament, but it is a giant tournament to take a pretty good sample from. And one that's used the new points, hasn't used the new GHB yet, so we've still got some balancing to do for that. But, it's good to see nobody go 0-5. Also, nobody went 5-0, so, it is showing that we're kind of balanced there around that middle. We'll take a look at the 3 lists here for the 4-1 tier, just to kind of take a look at those. So we'll focus in on those here in a minute. In the 3-2 tier, we had Elijah. Oh, sorry, I didn't get your last name on there, Elijah. Elijah Ramos. He's from Texas. I've played against him a couple times. Took Thunderlizard with Engine of God, a couple of Bastiladons. We had Tad coming in at 112th place. Some of these placings seem like really far down. 112th, that seems like you got really far down. But when you're talking over 300 people, that's not bad. He had the lone Dracothian tail list, and that had 30 skinks, 2 units of reinforced salamanders, which kind of forms that, that core of a Dracothian's tail list, which might be a little too fragile in today's high, octane, high damage lists. But he did have 2 Stormdrake Guard in there as the allies, and I kind of like those in that list. It gives it a little bit of durability that you might not have with all the skink stuff. So pretty cool there. John with his Thunderlizard, Engine of the Gods, Stuggy Chief, 2 Bastiladons. You get some good monsters in there. And then Jared with the only Kronspine to show up in any of these Seraphon lists. Down on the 2 and 3 list, we had some Kroak showing up. Anthony had a 2 Carnosaurs, 2 Bastiladons, and then a Seraphon Warband, the Kixie Taka. I haven't seen that one played in a while, so that's pretty cool. Gives you a little bit of mobility if you need it. Charles had a Carnosaur, Kroak, 20 Knights, and a Bastiladon in Koatl's Claw. That was the other Koatl's Claw list. And then down the 1 and 4 tier, this is my zone here. And I love this first list. Engine of the Gods, Stuggy Chief, a Stegodon, and 2 Bastiladons. That sounds like one of my lists. I love the Monster Mash lists, so those are fun. Joshua with a Kroak, Engine of the Gods, Bastiladon, Stormstrike Chariot as an ally. A pretty good ally there for what the points cost. And then Ian with the only the only Fangs of Sotek list. Going a little differently with a couple of units of Chameleon Skinks and 2 Bastiladons. No Salamanders in that list. So it may have been playing what he had or just going for a specific theme. But the only Fangs list on here that we had seen. So, all right, let's take a look at the 4 in 1 list. This first one is from Basil. And Basil is a very good player. We've talked about his Seraphon list before. He showed up pretty highly in tournaments quite a few times as we've been looking at lists. This is a Thunderlizard list with continuous expansion as the grand strategy. So I do like to point that out because that is still a valid grand strategy. And I think I remember Basil taking this one a couple of times in other tournaments too. Continuous expansion, I think it's still a good one to take. I think now, I think it may have gotten better since some of these are grand strategies are getting a little bit more difficult. But that's get 1 unit. At the end of the game, you have 1 unit in each quarter of the battlefield. So as long as you have 4 units alive and you're winning, you can generally get this one. Engine of the Gods as a general with Prime War Beast, Incandescent Retresses, Beastmaster, and Curse as his prayer. I really like this loadout. I've been thinking about doing the Incandescent Retresses on my next tournament. Just so you can play a little bit more aggressive with the engine. But what that does is you've got lots of extra attacks from Prime War Beast and Beastmaster. Incandescent Retresses gives you a chance to bring the Engine of the Gods back when it dies. On a 4-up, it comes back with all of its health. That's pretty unique to some of the other artifacts that do that. Usually it gives you a little bit of health back. This one gives you all your health back. So that 4-up roll is big when it goes off. You get this engine with 14 wounds coming back. -1 damage still. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to happen. Curse is a great prayer. Also give you mortal wounds. He's got the support pieces here with the Priest with heal, Star Priest with Hand of Glory to give the hit rolls of 1. Star Priest always, remember that the Star Priest gives a unit mortal wounds on 6s to wound. So a great support piece there. And then a Slann with Fusel of Conflagration. I don't know that I've ever put the Fusel on my Slann. I'm trying to keep my Slann away from things, not 12 inches close to something to do mortals. But obviously Basil knows what he's doing, so interesting. He's got 5 guard to protect his Slann there, 5 knights, and then 30 skinks. Those knights are going into bounty hunters, which knights in bounty hunters was just fantastic. Unfortunately, bounty hunters doesn't exist anymore, so you don't get that extra damage against battle line. But that really, really made knights shine. I think knights are still good in the new edition, the new General's Handbook, but not nearly as good as they were with bounty hunters. The 30 skinks in Expert Conquerors, it's not as hard a unit to shift as it used to be, but still very good. Lots of bodies. You're gonna use your Inspiring Presence on that unit. constantly to make sure they don't run. And they can still put out some good shots and mortal wounds when you need them to. As damage isn't going to like wipe something, but they can do it from range, and if they need to, they can get mixed up in combat and still do a little bit of damage, especially in the previous edition. Now you'd probably have to put them in the what is it, Bonds of, or Galatian, whatever the Galatian veteran battalion is now, where they can fight in double ranks. You didn't have to worry about that in the previous GHB. Geminids, two Bastiladons and then Geminids. Geminids is a good spell. It's think the Terra Wings, but as long as you cast it, it's automatic instead of having to roll for it. So that can debuff a unit to where you can make sure you're getting, they're not doing all out defense, because you've got a enough shooting on targets that you want to make sure that they don't pop all out defense in the shooting phase, and you can use Geminids to do that. So the core battalions aren't really relevant anymore other than command to entourage. You can still do that one to get the extra artifact, but still a good list. 108 wounds, 10 drops. Doesn't care about going about choosing priority. You got stuff you can do in your turn 1 if you want to, or if you get second, you can screen everybody out efficiently. So great job, Basil, there. The next one we're going to look at is Dean's. Dean Biltz. Yeah. Dean he won a GT recently with this list. I think it was the same list. May have been tweaked a little bit because of the new points, but very similar. Playing Koatl's Claw, embarrassing all of us who have tried to play Koatl's Claw and fail by doing very well with it. His grand strategy is take what's theirs, and so he's looking to be aggressive with this list, end up in their territory by the end of the game. That one's still viable in the new GHB. He's got the Scar Veteran on Carnosaur, the new beautiful 200-point cost, as your general with War Spear, Dominant Predator, and Eviscerating Blade. So you can do some mortals, you can get command points back with those two things. That helps out the army. In general, helps the Carnosaur do a little bit more damage. Not a whole lot. Mount trait is Beastmaster to give it extra attacks. The Slann has artifact Atixi Grubs. Love that one. Gives you a reroll to a spellcast and lets you heal. Skink Starmaster with Hand of Glory to reroll hit rolls of 1, but also the Starseer has the sweet abilities of giving somebody a 3d6 charge, and they can charge from 18 instead of 12, so that is wonderful. But also, it can debuff an enemy unit to -1 rend. Well, -1 to their save. So basically, -1 rend for your unit that's attacking it. And it has decent range on that. So that's good for any shooting you're going to do, which he doesn't really have a lot of shooting, but also melee, it makes a big difference on his units of knights that we'll look at here in a second. Skink Star Priest with Hand of Glory also for rerolls, but you're looking for that Venom Staff is what you're really taking the Star Priest for, to give mortal wound output to the knights. We have a Celestant Prime, Hammer of Sigmar, as an ally. And I believe I was listening to a video with Dean doing an interview on his GT win, I think. And he was talking a lot about how Celestant Prime is giving him a source of -2 rend that nobody else in the army has, so he can take Prime into those targets if he needs to. If there's a target with high armor that he needs that extra rend, he can bring Prime down onto that. Prime, if you never played with him, can stay up in reserves and gain more attacks the longer he stays up there. Or if you put him down on the board turn 1, he's going to be bombing mortals onto a unit, onto an area of units. And that is valuable in and of itself. So you've got the Slann doing mortals, and you've got Prime doing mortals. You can take out a lot of those smaller support heroes that other armies need to buff their stuff up. A great play there, lots of flexibility. If you're smart and a good player, which Dean is, he's a very good player, then you can make good use of Celestant Prime there. He's got 25 knights in this list. I love that. That's so great. They're all in bounty hunters, which is so sad because that makes knights were so good in bounty hunters, getting the extra damage. And when they each have 7 attacks, and they're getting, double damage on those, it's a beautiful thing. So that's going away. I think knights can still be good, even without bounty hunters. you probably just end up lowering your drops if you don't have bounty hunters now. But it does reduce your output a lot, to be honest. So we'll see how they shake out in the next few months. He does have a unit of guard to protect his Slann, and then 5 chameleon skinks. Let's see, does he have an extra 10 points? He does have an extra 10 points. You know, I might upgrade those to the Hunters of Huanche chameleon skinks. They're just 10 points more right now, and you get a hero in that unit, which really helps out when they've kind of deep struck off on their own. But maybe he wants a triumph. Maybe that's what he's going for. Purple Sun for 90 points there. Purple Sun is still good. Gives you that extra rend, which is great in this list because now he's got the Starseer giving basically extra rend. He's got the Purple Sun basically giving him extra rend. And so now your Knights, which have a ton of attacks but no rend, now get some really good rend coming in. So some great synergies there. 102 wounds, all in Coalesced Koatl's Claw. Great job, Dean. Good stuff. The next list we'll take a look at one more list here, was James. James Gotrik's son. I'm assuming that's not your last name. If that is your last name, you were literally born to play Warhammer. Let's take a look at his list here. He has a Thunderlizard list, and the grand strategy, no place for the weak. We've got a General Engine of the Gods with Command Trait Prime Warbeast, Fusilic Conflagration on the engine, Beastmaster, and the Heal Prayer. So, somewhat standard loadout for an Engine of the Gods. Engine of the Gods, very good, very versatile. You can use that a lot of different ways. It's going to be doing some mortals from its Cosmic Engine, from the Fusil, unless you roll a 1, or unless you just totally forget about it, like I always do. And then you can pump that engine up to do lots of melee damage if you need to, and send it in. Slann Starmaster with the Tixie Grubs. We've seen that before. Give the extra rerolls and a heal. Skink Priest with Curse. I usually end up switching those around. I like my Engine of the Gods with Curse on it, and then my Skink Priest with heals, because usually my Skink Priest is hanging around my Bastiladon, and then my Engine of the Gods is mixing it up closer, and I like the Curse on the engine. But, he may be playing the Priest, pushing it forward a little bit more aggressively, maybe with the Bastiladon. Who knows? Skink Star Priest with Hand of Glory, and that Skink Star Priest will be supporting... Well, I don't know. Maybe the Kroxagore. He's got some Kroxagore. Maybe the Knights. I mean, Skink Star Priest with just even a minimum unit of Knights is still good. So, he's got a reinforced unit of Source Guard. Interesting. I haven't seen that played in wow. When was the last time I saw a reinforced unit of Guard? I mean, I've done that a couple times, but just goofing around. I've seen that played. It was back. Gosh, it would have to be back when. Remember when? What was it called? The Kroak NATO. When you'd take Balewind Vortex and Kroak and a bunch of guard. Oh, those were the days. People hated us back then. Anyway, so he's got a reinforced unit of guard. So he's not losing his Slann, that's for sure. He's got a minimum unit of warriors, a minimum unit of knights, same for skinks. So he's got a little bit of board control. He can spread those guys out and send them around to capture things that he needs to. A Bastiladon with Solar Engine to do some shooting. And then a reinforced unit of Kroxagore. Yes. Kroxagore are so much fun. Especially in Bounty Hunters, which they are here. Kroxagore in Bounty Hunters is insane. So shed a tear for our Kroxagore, as well as the Knights, who no longer get the buff of Bounty Hunters, which made them a lot of fun to run. He's also got Quicksilver Swords, which if you got 60 points, Quicksilver Swords is great because it does give you something that a lot of armies don't have, and that's a way to bypass a ward save. So the Quicksilver Swords, if you come up against somebody that has a really strong ward save, this will just get right around that. Very good, very good. And longer range than a lot of spells, and so you can usually throw it. At least I think it is. I haven't looked at its range in a while. I haven't played my Quicksilver swords. This kind of makes me want to pull them back out again. Core battalions, we had Expert Conquerors. What do we have in Expert Conquerors? The Guard and the Warriors there. Okay, Guard and Expert Conquerors is kind of cool. A big unit there. Your home objective is safe if you're keeping these near your Slann in the temple. And then Bounty Hunters and Warlords. So 2 of those battalions are gone now, sadly. But I think all the points still work here, and I think the list still works in what it's doing. You've got your melee threat of Kroak, you're shooting with Bastiladon, and then all your support pieces to do what they do. So, all right, good list there. Good list. I think as I was looking through these, in conclusion, as I was looking through these, I think a lot of our lists, as long as you redo the battalions, a lot of them can stay fairly similar because we have enough small units as our support heroes that we're bringing in all these. We can play these into our Galatian Champions meta fairly well, and a lot of what we're doing isn't totally dead. You know, if you're throwing a bunch of knights at things, you still have a lot of attacks. You can still get those pumped up with the extra rend and mortal wounds. So you can still build on those synergies. They won't be doing as much damage without bounty hunters, but everybody's not doing as much damage without bounty hunters. We have enough battle line units to protect our Galatian champions. I don't think that's a big deal, protecting them. And if you wanted to put like some of the skink lists into sharpshooters, you could. And then like Basil's list could still form that role with those 30 skinks. They can go Galatian champion hunting if they need to. So I think that it'll translate about the same into the new meta. Everybody's losing bounty hunters, so it kind of hurts everybody the same. And I think our lists still kind of perform a lot of what they do, even without bounty hunters. So, all right, good stuff there. If I missed anybody, sorry about that. Let me know what your list was. If you happen to take one of these, let us know in the comments below how you did and what your epic moments were. I always love hearing that. All right, guys. We'll see you all next time.